Hello and welcome to the Made in Romance podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Bailey, and we also have my co-host here, Sab, aka SR7.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm not bad, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And on today's podcast, we have a guest, author of the Restarter series, Sean McMahon. Welcome to the Made in Romance podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me. What?
What? We're very excited to have Sean on because, as everyone probably knows, me and Sean and Sab are very good friends.
Incredibly close. So excited.
Pretty tight.
Okay, so let's just get straight into it. On today's podcast, we're going to be talking about platonic relationships, aka bromances. Yeah, man. Way.
Totally.
So excited to be discussing this. We know that we're a romance podcast, but I think that platonic relationships in books are still very as much as important as the romantic ones. You know, I don't know about you guys.
I definitely agree. Like, I feel you need that bromance chemistry to make it enjoyable as a romance, I guess. Yeah, I totally agree.
Definitely. I think you get to explore a lot of different types of a relationship by doing it. You can have a lot of different dynamics.
Yeah, definitely. So the first thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was how do you as a writer construct your platonic relationships in your book? How do you decide who is going to be the best friend, or and why, and all of those questions?
All of the questions.
All of the questions, yes. Who wants to take this up first? Or should I take it up first?
You're running the show. I get to sit back. This is kind of a novelty for me. So you're in charge. You tell me what to do.
Okay. All right, well, I'll start then. I think when we're writing personally, when I'm writing a romance, I always kind of sometimes forget that I need to give my main character friends. Is that terrible?
No, actually, I completely relate, but carry on.
And then I realized that they should have friends, so then I ended up. In fact, I'll talk about, funnily enough, I'll talk about Demon's Destiny, because at the time of recording this podcast, it's been 2 years to the day that I released this book. So I'll talk about when I was writing this book. I kind of had to go back and retcon the book, because originally when I was writing it, Ella didn't have a best friend.
Poor Ella.
She didn't have anyone. And then suddenly this character appeared in her life, Daisy, and I was like, oh shit. And then I had to go back and rewrite a bunch of stuff to add Daisy into the narrative before that. And then Daisy turned out to be this like super important character because she got her own book, obviously. But yeah, and I think it was very important for her to have the relationship with Daisy, because in normal life we all have at least one friend. So I was like,
someone's doing well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had to give her a best friend, and then they bounced off each other, and it became another character that you could explore a relationship with. And I think it was an different relationship, obviously, that Ella had with Lucas as what she had with Daisy. Was that they'd known each other for a long time, they knew how each other worked and ticked, and you can feel them vibing off each other. And then I felt very much the same way when I was writing The Devil's Syndicate, because obviously in that book, as Sab will know, all the books there, we have four friends who've been friends for 22 years who know each other inside out. And it was very fun to write that for, even though I'm a woman and I'm writing men, I've watched enough male relationships and romances to be aware of how men interact with each other.
Ridiculous they are.
Yeah. And the amount of times that they just continually wind each other up and say stupid shit to each other, and like it made them feel more real to me. And I do know that came across in the books when people finally started reading them, and I think that those relationships were very important, on top of the romance aspect of it. The relationship between the boys was equally as an important aspect of the book, because it brought
have a kind of like a relentless banter towards each other then, where they just keep trying to drag each other.
Yeah, there's one particular character, Zav, who is the joker of the group, and he's always winding all of the other three up all the time, and it drives Quinn, the like leader, insane, and those two butt heads all the time. because he hates the fact that he's always saying stupid shit and not taking anything seriously. And you get that kind of, funny like rivalry between them as well. And it was a really, I absolutely adored writing those relationships in some ways more than I did writing them.
Super useful as well, because
Yeah.
you can actually incorporate those for the downtime when you're having like downtime between the action and the tense scenes that you're trying to create. They're perfect for those moments.
Yes.
aren't they? You can bring them in and then just like have them throw everything out of the cart
And they can just be
and
like,
run wild. It's fun.
yeah, I think that's the fun part about writing platonic relationships, because you can do that, and there's not that same. There's no sexual. Well, I guess there sometimes is sexual tension between friends, but I think there's none of that, and it's fun to write. It's just really fun to write like friends, I think, because we all have friends, and I kind of base that on my relationships, sort of, with my friends, because we're always, especially I guess as Brits, we certainly like to wind each other up and give each other shit. And that's one of the things about it, is that the more that you give each other shit, it means the more that you like each other. Whereas Americans kind of don't understand that. They're like, why are you being so...
Like if they didn't interact at all, then you know that they don't like each other.
Exactly. And they're like, why are these characters being so mean to each other? And I'm like, they're not being mean. It's called banter. And they're like,
Really? Have you?
Yeah.
Have people?
I've had
Really?
I've had some people like question why Brits be seen to be saying horrible things to each other, and I was like, well, it's because we're Brits and that's what we do.
It's affection. It's endearment.
Exactly. It's like the complete opposite. Whereas they're very, very friendly and they're like really nice to everyone. If you're nice to someone, well, this is what I perceive as if in America, if you're nice to someone, that means that you like them. Whereas in the UK, it's the complete opposite. And I think sometimes, unless they've been heavily exposed to British culture, I think it sometimes is a bit of a shock to their system when they come, if they come here.
I was just thinking, like, imagine like they come to the UK and they completely misinterpret the grumpy faces on public transport as being that they actually like them. It's just like, Brits just hate to just be like smiling on them. Don't smile at strangers.
Petrol resting bitch faces. Yeah, it's true.
Like, what are you smiling at me for?
Like go away. Stop smiling. Don't look at me on the train.
Don't look at me. Like, honestly.
See, I'm kind of a smiley guy, and I've been confronted on it before by other Brits. So
really?
Like, yeah, I was in the chip shop once, and so I'm just queuing. I'm like, hey, just smiled at a dude. I didn't think anything of it. He was like, leans in. He's like, "What's so funny, mate?" I'm like, "Wait, what?" He's like, "What you smiling about? What's so fun?" And I'm like, "Wait, what's happening?" And I said, "I'm just in a good mood. Is that okay, bro?"
So aggressive.
Oh my God. So aggressive.
Fighting.
I was like, I know. I was like, what is happening? Wow.
Yeah, the Brits.
Somebody hurt him.
I think someone did hurt him. I think you should have laid your hand on his arm, going, "Who hurt you?"
Yeah, who?
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, no.
Or just lent in for a gentle kiss. I think that would have probably.
I think you might have had a fist in your face if you did that.
Or it would have gone the other way. He's like, "I just wanted you to know."
You're like, he's like, no one understands. You're the first person to have comforted me in this time of tragedy.
Finally, a connection. Yeah, definitely. Being mean because I liked you. Yeah.
Oh God. I've never really thought about it, but actually British people are kind of really weird in that respect. I think about how we're perceived by the outside world, and I'm like, people must think this is a bit weird,
What though? Like, I have to say that there's a neighbour who I pass all the time when I'm going out, and they're quite elderly, so they're on their porch and they just people watch, and without fail always says hello to me. And I don't even know them, but I say hello back. I like that, but I always feel like a fool if I'm the first person to smile at someone and then they just like don't.
Really like.
Yeah, but it's like.
But then you get to say, "Fine, you're welcome," as you walk past them. So it balances out.
Do
Let's go.
you know what?
Like the really passive aggressive way.
Like proper. It happens on public transport. It happens when like you hold the door for someone. That's probably the worst thing. When I hold the door for someone, like I've legit waited for you to jog. I see you jogging for the door. I've held it open.
See you. Yeah.
And then they go up the stairs. I'm like, well, fucking thank you. Like, fuck's sake. Like, am I invisible? Like, I have a proper I just have a rant to myself. It's been a rotten mood. Like, just
because someone
man.
didn't thank you.
honestly, manners is a serious thing for me.
I completely understand. But you know what's really weird is that obviously I was born and raised down south in England where no one talks to each other and no one, like, everyone's like, if you look at someone, you know, they'll give you daggers for it. You come up to Scotland and it's the complete opposite. Everyone says hello to you and you're just like, why are these people saying hello to me? Like, especially in the
Am I in the Wicker Man?
Especially in the Highlands where I live, like if you walk down my street, about 9 times out of 10, you should be saying hello. Someone will say hello to you, and you're just like, "Hi, I've never seen you before in my life, but okay." And then my neighbors start trying to like get to know me and shit, and I'm like, "Why? Who are you? Why are you getting to know me?"
Are you so invested? Who sent
Yes.
you? Yeah, I know.
But like honestly, like I'm not like now. I obviously know that's the case here, so I wasn't like completely weirded out. But my husband was quite confused. He was like, "Why are people being nice?" And I'm like, "Because it's Scotland and everyone's nice to people, whereas people aren't like that in England."
It's very true. I think that happened to me when I went to Mauritius. It's so different. It's so different. Like, there's no boundaries. People just rock up to your house. It's an open house. People just rock up unannounced, no phone call, nothing. The phone rarely rings because people just turn up at your house and they welcome them. And they always have food ready. I don't know. It's just, maybe it's my family. No, it's not. It's literally the whole of Mauritius. But everyone says hello. Everyone's so polite. And then when I came back here, I just felt really disconnected from everyone. I was like, oh yeah, people aren't friendly here.
You're like, I'm home now.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, God.
Wow, I feel like we went off on a long time.
We went off, but this no surprise.
No.
I bring that out in people. So chip shops, that's what we were talking about, right?
Yes,
Wait.
We were
Platonic
talking about platonic relationships. So as our viewers may or may not know, both Sab and I have read Sean's books, and we absolutely adore his platonic relationship in his books. Although I have not read.
Thank you.
I will have admit that I have not read the last book.
That's okay, because in our group chat, someone just dropped a huge spoiler.
Oh God!
Oh, so funny. We would say what? We were like,
and do you know what? Like, I feel like I was really nervous about this podcast. So I thought, okay, if we're going to talk about Sean's recent book, I've finished it, and I feel like Tom Holland. Like, I feel like I need to just shut my mouth and not say anything.
She knows things.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'm terrible at this, at ruining my own stuff.
Oh, so you're the Tom Holland. Oh, okay.
The Tom Holland of my own Spider-Man. But yeah, it's it was interesting that you said how you had sort of Valor and you wanted to make Daisy and you kind of retconned it with Daisy in mind. But for me, I did it completely the opposite way. So it was, the entire thing was about a group of friends. I would then sort of project relationships into as it formed.
Yeah.
Would get to learn who was married and who had what and stuff like that. And it was really important for me from the outset that I wanted Ankara to be platonic. I wanted this male and female buddy cop dynamic. The Britishness that you talked about, you know, that having the always sniping at each other, and the fact that Al is not this alpha kind of dude. He is just nerd and he's in the way mostly. But instead to kind of have Kara be the one who was there's so few strong female protagonists in some of the stories that I've read, and it was just what I wanted to create, was someone that didn't need that function at her best. You know? Yeah. And so that was the thought process behind it. Interestingly, as it's developed, because it's always, since I wanted it, there have been people who have kind of shipped them together. Like they kind of want to see that evolution. It was quite interesting. some people in particular, am I right, Sarah?
Well, I think Sarah and I together make a unified thought process.
Is this actually not a podcast? Is this an intervention?
Like, probably, maybe. Very strongly though. No, seriously, like I totally ship them, even though I don't know if I should, but I do.
Yeah, I have to agree. I ship them, but then I'm like, I also on the other hand, I also understand that I understand what you were trying to like do with it, so it's not. I'm not like I wouldn't never be upset if it never happened, you know. Because I know a lot about your
It's good to know.
your writing of these books, probably a lot more than people know.
You do have a lot of secrets. It's
I've
true.
known so many secrets that I've had to keep for like a long time, and like I was like, oh, and the funny thing was is when obviously Sab was reading the last book, and I kind of knew some things about it that like no one else knows, even though I've not read the whole thing, and she was just like. She was like, "What do you know, Sarah? Can you tell me this?" And I said, "No, I'm not telling you anything." And then she goes, "Did you know about this?" And then, yeah. And then she goes, "Did you know what happens at the end?" And I was like, "Kind of." And she goes, and then she was like, "I can't believe you two." And she was like, "I'm going to kill you two." And I was just
well,
like,
we had to, because obviously this was one of the beautiful things, is that we became friends and
yeah,
read each other's work, right? And we were super dug the universes we were both kind of working on. Met, didn't we? We met up, and we kind of had like a idea, kind of throwing some ideas around and stuff, how it would be to see those worlds emerge, even if it's only a simplistic capacity. And no, so we had a lot of fun. That's why you know so much about this, because I couldn't keep it secret. Like, you had to read this stuff.
Yeah, there's other massive secrets that I had to keep about it that no one else like knows, and I was like, But
so you're doing a great job, kid. Thank you.
And I've not even anything since. I've not said it to anyone since like even now it's released, because I know that a lot of people haven't read the last book, so I'm not telling anyone about any of this, because it's not. You will just have to read it if you want.
You just have to get there on your own to see whether or not I stick to my guns on the.
Yes, and like, but it's just been funny because like I've known all these things for like probably like a year and a half, maybe more than that now, and it's like now I can finally actually have told Sab, who I've had to keep. I basically don't keep anything from Sab, and I've had to keep these specific secrets from you, and I feel really bad about it, because it's like, fuck, I tell Sab everything, but I can't tell her this. It's just.
I feel
that was a lot of fun though with the sequel. Was that I wanted to play with those expectations and those requests from readers, then turn them on their heads in some way. So I would try and build up with an unreliable narrator what was going down, and lead them into thinking that it's going to happen, and then just pull the rug out and have a laugh. And I got so much hate for that in a beautiful way. They were like, "How could you do that?" Oh, Felicia. But yeah,
I love, but that's the thing about books. It's like I love it when the author kind of rips the rug out from underneath you, and you're left going, "What the fuck?" It's my favorite thing in the world, even though I also hate it at the same time. You're like leading up to this one thing, and then suddenly it's like, "What? No, that you did not tell me that this was going to happen." And then it's just like, "Holy shit!" and your mind gets blown. And I feel like you do that with all of your books, which is. Makes me
thank you.
Simultaneously hug you and strangle you at the same time. Like, why did you do this to me? I love it, but
what do you think, Sab? Like, what works well for you for a platonic relationships?
But before we even get into me, I just want to say that reading your books like straight up turned me to a proper detective. It's probably this is you know my journey when I started reading the book. It
was amazing to be a part of
like
that.
A whole weekend I was just there like talking to Sean about every revelation and everything. It was just a crazy journey for me.
Your predictions, I love to see your predictions.
Like
what happened that I wouldn't answer.
This book series, Sean's book series is the only one where I've had to, whilst I'm reading a book, go back into the other books, like fully take it off the shelf and scroll through and look for. Like,
kidding me? That's amazing.
Like,
for real?
No, 100%, because I had so many theories, and I really enjoyed how you revisited those little eggs that you dropped in places in like the first and second book, and I was like, hold on, I've seen this before. I was like, wait, I'm not going mad. Wait, I'm not going mad. And then I had to open up the books and go through and be like, I see what you did
That
there.
was the weird thing, though, was I didn't expect to get away with that. I thought people would read the first one and be like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, who are those people? And who's that? And what are they doing? It's only when you kind of piece it together as one whole, and anyway,
I absolutely
kinda
loved
get
it.
this.
This is probably the first puzzle I've come close to solving. I'm rubbish at puzzles, but this, I loved seeing all the little pieces come together. And I forgive you both, by the way. I just want to put this out there on our podcast that I forgive you both. I understand that you had to keep these secrets, and it paid off. I respect you both for it. I do not regret
It
anything.
was so hard.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I love it. I'm horrible when it comes to secrets being kept from me. I'm like, Sarah, like, you have to tell me this. And then a lot of the time Sarah's like, you sure you want me to tell you this, or do you want to wait? And I'm like, I don't know.
Wait.
Yeah. Sometimes I give in.
It was the great thing, though, was because when I ran the competition for being a character in the book and then you won, I was like, this is just perfect, because I knew you were so passionate about it. To have
Still, that
cameo.
it blew my mind. I still can't believe
I think that was like the best cameo ever for you, ever, in where it is, because I knew where it was and I was like, I can't tell you where you are
The whole time. Yeah.
No, when you don't understand. I was just freaking out. Oh my god. I've got this massive grin on my face now because I'm just like, this is just fantastic. I'm so happy. Oh god.
It means so much to me that you enjoyed it. It was so much fun, and especially where it was in the book as well.
Yeah.
was a blast.
It's
So.
fabulous. It was really great. But yeah, I'll answer your question now. Sorry. Right, yeah. So I have to completely agree with both of you, especially I'll talk about a couple books that I'm kind of working on, and how I feel in regards to relationships. So I have to say that my pirate series that's kind of on the burner at the moment. That one,
Really excited.
oh god, that's just gonna be a while before that gets out there.
I know, but I'm still
I
excited,
know.
and nothing you can say can change my
Oh
mind.
well, okay. Well, that one's really fun for me, and it still is this day because my hero is part of a pirate crew, so it is a huge bromance. Like, his crew is his family, and they all give each other shit. That the banter is amazing, and I enjoy it so much. I enjoy it. I have to say that I agree with Sarah in regards to the Devil Syndicate and the boys. I remember when Sarah started writing the Devil Syndicate, I was reading the boys, and their banter with each other, and it just I think I remember saying to it made me feel like home in a way, because I was really missing my pirates. I was really missing that brotherhood. Like, it's something so special, and it's kind of like a group of friends goes through so much, but they're always together. Like, they always come back to each other. I'm thinking of Friends, but I'm not going to go down that road. But
no
basically, yeah. I think it's really important because it just adds a wonderful element to the story. And I know that the pirate series has romance. Romance is is the predominant aspect of the story, but I think it's definitely in my pirates and how they are with each other and how they have each other's backs, which makes it so special for me. And it's something that my other stories that I'm working on do not have. And I find it really interesting that Sarah says how when she first wrote Demon's Destiny, how Ella didn't have a best friend. Well, actually, as it turns out, my contemporary romances that I've started or have on the burner, somehow they don't have friends. And I think the way that it worked out is when I started writing these contemporary romances, there was a rule, because I was writing them for like a project. There was a rule that said that it couldn't focus on secondary characters, so it was just solely the couple. And because of that, I went into that mentality of this couple, the hero and the heroine, not having any friends, and it was just focused on them. But now that I'm kind of taking charge of my stories and giving them life, I haven't actually thought about them having friends, but I realized that's not actually a normal thing to not have friends. Because I don't know, it's just something that occurred to me as Sarah just started this podcast. I was like, oh damn, like I'm doing these contemporary romances and I don't even think they have friends, because I've just been in that mentality of all that matters is the characters. But I think it's very important to have the banter and the romance and somebody, because as you say, it's like a filler. It's something you kind of embrace when emotions are really high between a couple, or a scene that's been too action packed. You kind of need a breather, and that's what these relationships are for, I guess. That's what friends are for.
Yeah.
Just that comedy, just that lightheartedness that really kind of makes you go, oh, I really needed that after that.
It's why it kind of surprises me that you dug my books, because mine's kind of the opposite. So it's all friendship, and then there are offshoot relationships happening in the background.
Yeah, and that's what surprised me.
It was actually Sarah's books that kind of dared me to try a relationship dynamic with, say, Peter and Fern. It was something I always wanted to do with the sequel, but actually do it. I learned a lot about how to do that kind of romance component from Sarah to a degree. It was very interesting to me, and that's why I've been reading the lead up to the sequel. I read a lot of contemporary romance, which isn't a genre that I usually read. Something that I've actually learned to love, because it's a completely different, a different vibe, don't you? As you guys know from reading these kind.
I'm kind of like shocked that it's my books that made a difference in your life, but
sparked, it was a massive challenge to act, because it's something I've, friendships is something I've been working on, 3 years now, and to kind of into a relationship component and make it feel genuine. That was the biggest challenge. You don't want people to just be either shouting all the time or perfect together all the time. It's that balance, that kind of give and take. And there may be a romance component in the third book, where I really it was a relatively new relationship that I had to try and explore. And I really admire what you guys do in terms of real. It's blooming hard to make it,
You know what? I think I can bring this up without spoilers or anything, but only because you both have said this, and it's no secret that you both have this collaboration in the third book. But I noticed there was a difference in Sean's writing in the third book at one particular point, where it was kind of romantic, and I was a little bit like, whoa, what's happening? I was like, hold on a minute, wait a minute. But then it just makes sense, because it was to do with Sarah's universe, and it kind of that's kind of, I don't know, it was very interesting for me, because I immediately thought something to do with Sarah's universe here. Like, it has to be, surely, because this is different for Sean. Like, this is.
It shows you the impression that it made on me. It was a real learning curve. So I'm glad you picked up on that.
No, it was great. Like, I was surprised, but in a very pleasant way. I was just like, wow. Like, for a minute, I thought, geez, could Sean be a romance writer for real? Like,
nah.
I was like, what,
No,
oh my God. No, I was like, damn. Okay, yeah. I mean, it wasn't crazy, but it was just different, because I was so used to the style of your writing, and then to just see this difference, it just made me think, whoa, he's just unlocked potential here. I'm just like, you've caught my attention.
I wanted to try it, and I think there was inherent humor, because I've always felt that a lot of the characters in Sarah's books are very beautiful characters, very beautiful people. Know, and you just kind of get this vibe that they're very attractive.
Yeah.
But in an authentic way, that I'm super jealous of. And I loved about Hal and Cara kind of walking into that.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's so good looking.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? And they're just like frumpy as heck.
It's funny though, because I had to I read those chapters to make sure that Sean got the characters done authentically. We had a lot of discussions over those, didn't we? To make sure that
I didn't want to offend those who are fans of that, not trope, but that kind of staple of some of these romance stories. of these great looking people. We didn't want to poke fun at it, did we? We wanted to just acknowledge that it was there. Ankara had no place being in it.
No, they really did. The funny part about that, my favorite part about that entire section is the way that Hal kind of flounders in amongst this entire thing. Like he's completely out of his element, and especially in regards to one particular character that he has a conversation with. And I was just like, when I was reading that, the funniest part about it was that was one of the funny part about that is that's the one character that Sean hasn't actually read. But when I told you about that character, you like nailed him straight away. And it was really funny because I was like, I just basically said to him, this character basically hates humanity and thinks that he's above everyone else. And he just nailed that. And because the time that it's set before that character's book, so it was interesting.
His growth.
Yeah, it was interesting to see him still in that, like before he changes and
before he transcends.
And it was like so fun for me to see that and see that character and see him done so well in a way that and I was like, even though you've not like read that book, and I was like, it showed that obviously I got across what that character was like to you, and you just and it's
but that was all down to you. You kind of that was one of the things we always said, wasn't it? If we can't nail it, like if we can't get the vibe, we just won't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're going to try. And it took a lot of edits. There's another character that Hal meets in the After Dark environment. Yeah. He's just got zero game with. He's got just terrible. He's just terrible around women. Which if you're wondering how I managed to write that so convincingly, I managed to draw on some internal experiences. But it was that was fun to write.
You did really well with that character, by the way. I immediately knew exactly who it was. I was like, whoa.
You were like, oh, damn. Because I didn't tell Sam a single thing about who was in it. I was like, I'm not telling you which characters Sean's decided to pick and put in there.
There were originally more, weren't there? Yeah. We did have more, but we had to we're getting to the point where we could have probably done a whole book. So we were like, we should cut this back. But
yeah, like the original set of characters that were going to be in it didn't end up in. But I actually was really happy with the ones that we did get in, because I thought that those were actually quite interesting characters. Well, not that any of my characters are not interesting, but those were like quite central figures in the narrative of the entire After Dark universe. So for me, I was like, yes, those are the right characters.
For me, it was kind of like, how old would these people be at this point?
Yes,
it was like
there was that as well. There was the fact that when the time you set it, we had to pick characters who were actually going to be alive at that point as well.
Which was super not a headache.
No. Yeah. So that was that. Yeah,
anyway, I digress.
Anyway, it's funny going back to like what Sab was saying about like male relationships, and you were talking about the boys in the Devil Syndicate. The funny thing is, now you were thinking, and you said you haven't written any friends in your contemporary, and I was just thinking, oh shit, you know what? I've just realized that the female heroine doesn't actually have any friends. However, due to her upbringing, she doesn't have any friends.
Got brother.
No, she doesn't have any friends for a reason. Like, she has been sheltered by her father and her family, and the only people she really knows are her family and their employees, because she's the daughter of a crime lord. So she's been raised, and everyone she said herself, like, anyone who she thought was her friend wasn't really her friend, because they were kind of made to be. And so it makes sense for her not to have had, like, I think she does have one friend, but they're not introduced until like later on. But I just thought it was funny because I realized she doesn't actually have any friends really at all, and she makes friends with the boys, and that's quite freeing for her to have made friends. Obviously, she becomes involved with them romantically, but she also builds a friendship with them as well. And I think that's another important thing, is when you're writing a romance, you're not just writing a relationship between a romantic relationship, you're writing the building of a friendship between these two characters as well. So as a romance writer, you can apply your romance to, that's how we're so good at writing friendships, is because when you're building a romance, you have to build the friendship between those characters as well as the intimate relationship with them. So there's a two-pronged approach to writing romances. And I think sometimes that, I don't really think that authors always, or romance authors always really realize that they're also constructing a friendship on top of the relationship, if that makes sense. And sometimes they don't always nail it because they don't recognize that that's what they're doing.
Enjoy quite a lot about your writing is I like it when you have the two people that are in the relationship and the friends. I like the people from inside the relationship meeting the other person's friend, how they react and how they hold themselves and how they work to build a relationship with the friends. And that's what was so great about Lucas, was that I just really dug whenever him and Daisy are on the page together, because she's I don't know, it just really works for me. Interesting, because he's doing it because he loves
Ella,
but he's also creating a genuine affection, a genuine kind of relationship.
I think that was especially prominent in the second book, where Ella doesn't like her really. This is not really a spoiler. Ella doesn't like vampires because of what happened to her, and so when she finds out that Daisy's involved with the vampire, she gets really fucking pissed off about it, and Lucas is kind of like the mediator between.
You danced that line really well. I won't, obviously no spoilers for book 2, but the way that you had them have that confrontation, have them both be justified. Because you kind of are, in a way, you're kind of like, Izzy, what the hell are you doing? Like, get out of there, man. Like, there is a chance that everything is going to go wrong for you. At the same time, that kind of growth and acceptance that only a friendship can have.
Yes.
It's like, I love you even though you're making bad decisions.
Yes. I think that's actually a really important part of a friendship, is that your friend can do some dumb as fuck shit, but you still support them because they're your friend and you love them. And that's, I think, that's one of the reasons I kind of wrote that, is because I understand that friendships, people can do, I understand people do stupid shit, but my friends in my real world, majority of the time, have always stuck by me, despite all of the fucking dumb stuff I've done. And I've done a lot of dumb stuff in my life. Like, I'm not going to deny that. I think we all have.
I think, definitely.
And even even between, I guess, the three of us, we've had that kind of thing where someone has done something stupid, but we're kind of like, actually, it's okay because you're my friend and I can see your position, and
It's usually me, guys.
Well, but probably because I don't talk. I spend all of my time at home not getting involved in people's drama, so that's probably not me. But trust me, in my past, I've done a lot of dumb stuff, and I've been like, "Oh God, why?" But no, and I think that's actually funny enough. Quite something about my and Sab's friendship is I've done stupid stuff and Sab's done stupid stuff, and we tell each other about it, and we always get really nervous about saying, "Oh, by the way, this is what I've done in my past," and then I'll tell her, and she's like, "Oh, okay," and I'm the same.
Doesn't even register. Yeah, that's the thing. That's true friendship, guys.
And Sab will tell me something, and I'm like, "I still love you. I mean, it's fine." And she's just like, "How are you a real person, Sarah, that you just accept everything?"
I think those friendships are amazing. Like, to this day, I have a very, very, very small amount of dear friends who've stuck with me for years, like since I was 11. And that's a journey. I'm telling you, like, the amount of dumb shit I've done, like bad stuff.
What do they have dirt on you for?
Like, honestly, to this day, I'm just, even like as an adult, I'm just like, how are you still my friend? Like, this is amazing. Like, I just feel it's just so special. I really treasure the friendships that I've managed to keep, because I will be honest, I've had friendships that I thought that were forever, and then I've done something and they've just said, see ya, they've gone, and it just kind of it broke me, but just knowing that it's a real thing, that there are close friends, that are there are people in your life that will stick through you no matter what, is something to hold on to. It's so precious. And I think that's when you have that in literature, in books, it's wonderful to see, because it's so real. You kind of, you resonate with it. You feel like, oh wow, like you just connect with them, characters, and it's just nice, you know.
Yeah, and I think it makes your characters more real and relatable if you inject that into your book.
So it's like anything, isn't it? The more that you can actually use emotion memory, right? That's
Mm.
that's where you can put the real passion and the real true meaning into what you're trying to say, into something.
Yeah.
Have kind of relatable context and try and verbalize that.
Yeah.
Articulate that in a way others can maybe experience, whether they've experienced it themselves or otherwise. It's a beautiful thing, and that's we write. It's try and capture those memories and make people feel.
Exactly.
And also, like, I also feel like I need to say, from something Sarah said moments ago, it's kind of gone blank from my mind, but kind of not. It's what you were saying about Ash not having any friends, and it just made me think, oh, actually, I know why some of my female characters have no friends, and it's very much a thing to do with, in my pirate series, my heroine actually has no friends, and that's because her background doesn't allow her to, because of a fear that she has. And I think I've noticed, I've done this with my contemporary romance that I'm currently writing, in that trust is a huge thing. There's always going to be trust issues in my characters, but I think it always stems from, for them, a friendship that has gone really badly, or a fear that they're going to be torn apart for something, so they protect themselves and they don't let people in.
Relatable.
Yeah, and that's kind of where my pirate heroine is, in terms of her friendships, is that she's basically alone. She very well has people, she has family, who are actually actively trying to connect with her, but she is so afraid um of being kind of hurt.
Allowing yourself
Yeah,
to the risk
yeah,
of being hurt.
exactly.
I think the reader makes some great drama, because is that person going to let them down and then break her again, or is it gonna, is she going to grow?
Exactly. And then I think also, again, with what Sarah said, with Ash having a friendship with the boys, and also this whole, when you're writing romance, it's about the two characters forming a friendship, as well as a relationship, an intimate relationship. With this contemporary romance that I'm doing, it's actually a slow burn. So it's about them being friends in the past, and then time passes where they drifted apart, and they have to then reconnect, and reform this friendship, and then it develops into romantic aspect. And that the difficulty for me at the moment, I think, is they're very resistant in how they feel for each other, but it's kind of breaking. Yeah, it's kind of like daring them and challenging them to kind of embrace their feelings, even though they shouldn't, to kind of divert it from a friendship into something more. It's
risks involved in that, I suppose,
yeah.
isn't it, really? Because it's, especially if that friendship is functioning. Oh, I like that. I think that's really cool. I think my favorite romance movies and stuff like that are the ones where it is based on friendship, camaraderie, and the ability to have each other's backs. That just makes, especially with romantic comedies as well, the relationship so much more three-dimensional when the friendship is intact, rather than an unhealthy kind of codependency or something like that.
Yeah, I totally get that. I've also written the slow burn, so I know what's happening.
Yeah, Sarah's really good at those.
Oh God, I don't write that many slow burns actually, but this.
Okay.
Well, oh no. Oh, okay. Shall we talk about? I don't really want to spoil my latest. Okay, we'll talk.
Don't spoil your latest.
No,
yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about it, because this is something that I found it very difficult to talk about the book that's coming out in August, because there is so much about it that's really, I don't want to spoil anything, but I suppose I can talk about the beginning of this of the book, because the book is split into 4 parts, and it's about, and we go from when these two, it's a male romance, so we go from when these 2 boys are 7 years old right up until they're adult, and the first part of the book is them forming a friendship with each other, and that was a very important part of my writing this book, is that I wanted them to be friends, and I wanted them to form this kind of really strong bond with each other, so that when they become teenagers and the romantic element is introduced, it's kind of a very angsty and drama filled experience, as Sab will know, because they've been friends for 10 years before it comes out, obviously, that one of them is in love with the other one, type thing. And
they even begin to broach that with the other? Like, how do you even begin to? That's cool.
That was the really hard part about it, and it kind of gets, the way in which I do it is, as Sab will know, is there's a slight hints of it coming through, and then ultimately one of them ends up making a move on the other one. And then it's like,
oh no, that sounds good. I feel like I want to read this.
It was good. So okay.
Good.
Let me just,
and then it exploded into this, like, oh my god, like, and obviously then they have this relationship, and then their relationship gets ripped, completely torn apart. And
classic Sarah.
I know, and I was like, I hate it. Every time I read over that, I wanted to die, because I was so upset about it, because I'd spent this entire time building this relationship, and then
tear it all down.
And then obviously it's a romance, so that they're going to be together at the end. But this is why this book ended up being so long, is because I decided to go across their entire a massive chunk of their life. Like, I think it's like 17 years, isn't it? Yes, it's 17 years of their life. And I thought that was I think that is the ultimate building of a friendship, and then it turning into a relationship. And then it was like, I hadn't really thought about that one, actually, that the way in which that one's done, but that is how I did it. And it was, yeah. Sab can tell you more. Sab can go on about,
like, this book, like, from when Sarah told me she was going to start writing this book, I was like, just give it to me, because I just
you say it exactly like that?
Yeah, I fully did. Like, I was waiting.
Cool.
I was waiting for her to take this step and write an MM romance, okay? Because I don't know, like, if anyone knows this, I like MM romances. I read MM romances. Even anime, like yaoi. I watch MM romance animes. Like, I'm for it, okay? So when Sarah said she was writing one, I was like, okay, throw it at me. I'm the CP. No one else is CP. I'm CP. Give it to me. And I have to say, this book just destroyed me, man. Like, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. That's when I think about this book and I think about these characters, it's truly a beautiful story. I say that with all seriousness because of the way that it starts. They're really young, and there has to be this it's not an easy friendship to start off with. I have to say, there is struggle from the beginning just to form a friendship, and you'll know why. Readers will know why as they read on. But there were some parts of this story that hit home for me, and I truly could relate to one of the characters because of their background, and it made me more invested in this story, because my heart was bleeding, basically. And I think it's something, it means so much when a story makes your heart bleed, because you just think, oh my goodness, I'm so stuck in this now. Like, I literally was. Sarah said this to someone on Twitter, actually. It was Jess, that I was pestering her for chapters, and that's why and how she wrote this so quickly, because I was just greedy for more. I needed. It wasn't even about the romance. It was strictly because these characters, their bond is just amazing. It's beautiful. It's just Yeah, I can't gush any more about this story. Then.
Well, no, and
I'm
you're
really intrigued because I've only read one other, I think, relationship. I don't know if you guys have read Sevgood's A Map of the World.
no.
I really recommend you guys read it. It's a collection of short stories about lots of ultimately male relationships.
And I think
It's just beautiful.
I think it's really difficult as a female author as well to write a relationship about two men, but without like probably the community might kind of be like, well, why are you writing about two men? You're another man. And I'm like, I write men all the time, and I grew up in a male dominated household, and although neither of my brothers are, my brothers are both straight, that's not really, but I grew up around men, and most of my friends have been male. And it's funny, I even said this to my husband, I think I'm slightly wired to be more like, my brain is.
I think I would say the same on the other side of the coin. My friends are predominantly female.
Yeah, but my brain is slightly more wired in a way to be like more like a man. And I know that sounds really weird, but I do.
I get it.
My friends used to actually make jokes and say that I was born a man because of the way that I behave. And so for me, like, if you asked me about my background, I could tell you this is why I felt comfortable writing this story about two men. And I didn't just like go into it going, I'm writing about two men. I didn't write them as women, and I wrote them as men or boys. And because they've grown up together, it was kind of easier because you got to see their journey. And I think I prefer, I've said this before, I actually prefer to write from the male perspective, probably that very reason. And I've never had anyone say to me that these men don't sound like men. And, like, I have guys who read my books, and I've never had a complaint leveled at me that the guys don't sound like, or in their heads.
I've never come across that as a problem when I've reading your work, for sure. I think part of the process, right, is that it's easy to forget sometimes that we're all of these characters in our books. There is a little piece of us in every single one of them.
Yeah.
And there's one character that I barely touch on is a woman who is in another woman in story and stuff. The interesting guy, I have that same kind of concern because I was like, well, how informed am I to write from this perspective? When I realized was that it's just a case of writing any relationship, the good, the bad, the ugly. It's kind of and that's I don't have to be. It's like when I'm playing video games, I tend to play as the female character, and that you see a lot of gamers that are like, I can't relate to this Assassin's Creed female protagonist. Like, what? But you can relate to a Greek god chunk of a man who's running around. Yeah, like
that's hilarious. That cracks me up when people say stuff like that. I'm just like, why not? Yeah. I played as men, and it's funny because we're going off topic. In gaming, the predominant up until like, I don't know, not in the last kind of not even that many years, all the characters protagonists were men. And it's like, as a woman, I'm perfectly happy. I can relate to a guy. So why the hell?
Welcome to equality, guys. Like, geez.
Exactly. Why you as a man can't relate to me as a woman? Well, I'm like, just play the damn character, and then maybe you will be able to. Don't just stop being so closed off. But we won't go into discussion about the patriarchy and all of that business because that's probably a discussion for another time. Yeah. But it is a thing. It's like I do always get worried about the fact that I'm a woman and I'm writing men. But then I kind of go, well, actually, no one's ever said anything, so I clearly must write men fine. Otherwise, someone would have gone, this isn't what men sound like. And I'm like, well,
I think it's like a character motivation thing, right? Yeah. Like if when I'm writing, if a character does or says something that I just feel isn't true, I create female characters who are always shouting all the time at the men for doing stupid things. Like you don't want it to be like. Nor do you want them to be over and emotional.
No.
I was just as cool as James Dean, like, yeah, whatever, man. And the girls are like, oh, a hero. You don't want any of that.
No.
You want it to be completely balanced. That's why I like my guys to cry. I like my women to be like, I like my women to sort of say, like in my stories, dude, pull yourself together. What are you doing? Like,
I love it. That's one of the things that I absolutely love about Hal and Kara is Kara's always like pulling Hal up on really dumb shit.
He's just this little wallflower. He's like, okay, that was kind of mean.
Yeah, but the thing is, I actually know people who have relationships like that as men and women, as friendships, and that's why I love them so much. Is because I could see them as real, and that's, I think, yeah. Well, there you go. Well, you're just like, I'm getting so many compliments now. I don't know what to
Can't
do
handle
with
it.
myself.
Yeah.
This is what happens every time me and Sab compliment each other. We're like, thanks, man. I don't know what to say. Like when I was gushing over Sab in like one of the last podcasts, she like literally died because
I remember you said, I remember. I
Can't take it, man.
That.
Can't take it.
No, we're not built for it, are we? As
No.
writers, which is really weird because you think we should be.
Exactly, it's really funny.
Spend years of our life trying to get it right, and when we do, we're like, well, I can't.
I'm like, yeah, but these are just things that come out of my brain. How can you enjoy them?
Yeah, you liar.
Yeah, it's really funny. I've had to kind of like develop this like skin of like be able to just accept when people say that I'm good. I'm just like, okay, like
okay, that's your opinion.
Yeah, but I think it's like I think it's actually as a writer, it's kind of healthy to have that kind of skepticism. Can't even say the word skepticism about your own work, because if you don't and you just think, oh, my work is so great, then you're never going to strive
in a world of arrogance.
You're never going to strive to do better. And I think it's important for us as writers to develop and learn as we go, I guess. Well, yeah. This is again going completely off topic.
It's my fault. I bring this out.
It's okay. I love this though. This is the funnest thing about doing a podcast is we put a topic on, but then we just talk about random crap, and it's like really fun. Yeah, now we've somehow ended up talking about writing from the opposite sex.
Yeah, but it's an important topic. I know it wasn't the topic,
but it is. It is an important topic, and I think we do like. I have struggled with that, but now I'm just like, well, I'm just writing human beings, and men and women aren't.
Nailed it.
Exactly.
Nailed it.
And I'm like,
is what it boils down to. You're trying to create. You're not trying to create a female or a male perspective.
No.
You're trying to create a three-dimensional human being that will react.
Exactly, and that's why I was like, well, I can write a male romance if I want to. If I could even write a female romance if I want to. I have not had an idea to do one yet, but I'm never going to say never. But that's why I'm like, if anyone tries to level any criticism at me or anyone else about this, I'm like, well, I wrote a story about two characters that happen to be boys, and they, and they were very real, and it's not actually really about. I didn't sexualize them or fetishize them. I just made them into these two boys who fell in love, and became friends. Again,
very important. Exactly, is to not objectify and make it about the.
Yeah, it wasn't really. Yes, there is, because everyone reads my books. They expect them to have sex in them. They go at the end of the day, they do have sex in them. I can't really not put that in, but
that must have brought with it some interesting challenges.
It really did, but the funny thing is, thankfully, in the Devil's Syndicate, I actually wrote my first MM scene, and so I kind of, after I'd written that, I was kind of like, okay, I feel like I can kind of write like that type of sex. So I was,
for sure.
And then I had to kind of, obviously explore that further, because the focus in the Devil's Syndicate wasn't really on the two guys, but well, it was a bit, but it wasn't. So I had to explore that further in this book, and I had to kind of work out a whole new set of language and a way, because it is different, and and I had to read some male books so I could, get that.
Get a flavour
Exactly
of how that would work.
then I had to write that. But I think it wasn't like it wasn't impossible, and it wasn't. I never, and that was one of the things I was very much aware of when I was writing anything that's like I don't have the actual experience of doing, is making sure that I
like me
don't write it in a way that is fetishizing it, because I've read. Funnily enough, I've probably told you guys about this. I ended up listening to this audiobook, and it was a male romance, and I really liked it in the beginning, and I was raving about it to Sab, and then it just became this, like, it was literally like listening to gay porn, and that's the only way I could describe it as, and it was and that felt so fetishizing but it wasn't, but it was written like they were women. It was written like a man and a woman having sex, but they were men, and it was not done very well, and I hated every minute of it, and I was like, I don't want to write a book like that, because that would be not writing this in a way that was, I'm not saying sensitive, but appropriate to.
Yeah, you kind of never want to be with our research. We don't want to be seen about research.
No, research is very important.
Or yeah, and much in the same ways, you don't want to get caught out for using the wrong muddle or something. You also don't want characters to be. You just want to get that stuff kind of right, so it sounds authentic.
That's very true. That's I think very important. Something I think we've talked about before, haven't we, Sab?
Yeah,
it's researching and making sure that you know what you're supposed to be doing is an important part, and that's actually bringing back to friendships.
The original topic.
It's important, like, we've all had friends, so we're aware of how friendships work, but you want to make sure that, like, when you're writing like friendships that are not, that you don't specifically when I was writing The Boys, I had to kind of look at it as like boys, they had to be like men talking to each other, as opposed to men and women being friends and talking to each other. So I had to remember that these are guys, and they're probably going to say things that are slightly, men together don't talk in the same way a woman would talk together, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of remind myself about that. So I did have to, obviously, going off my experience of men talking to men in, like, TV shows and in books and stuff, and I had to kind of draw off of that to create an authentic relationship between these, or friendship between these boys, that when they were not in the presence of a woman, that they would have these, ridiculous conversations that you wouldn't.
Yeah. And they adopt almost a different personality almost entirely.
Exactly. So that was another important aspect of a friendship, is that especially when you're writing from the opposite sexes, you have to kind of remember that men don't relate to men in the same way as a woman would relate to another woman, or so there's lots of challenges, and you have to make sure you get that right, because the last thing you want is for someone to come along and say your friendship sucks.
It's so true.
You're like, I didn't believe the friendship between these two characters, and I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Sex was fine, but I didn't believe the friendship. That's not what you want.
That's just so deep.
I mean, you want all of the relationships in the book to work, so your friendships are as equally as important as your romantic relationships. That's kind of what I was trying to say.
I get you. No, it makes sense. It's so true.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Anyway.
I've set you off, and we've set Sarah off.
Yeah, this happens though. Like, this happens a lot.
I know. Anyway, so should we wrap this podcast up slightly?
Yeah, I'm not going to contest that. I'm gonna let you wrap it up.
We're on dangerous ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
Quit while we're ahead.
Exactly. So we'd like to first thank Sean for coming on the podcast and talking to us, because we really appreciate you having you on.
Especially for having me. It's fun to just hang out with you and just with you guys about the stuff. It's been a blast. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's been great.
Yeah, it's been really good. So that was the Made in Romance podcast, and we will see you guys again very soon. Bye bye for now.
Bye.